Hi, my name is Kristin Love, and I am a childbirth expert. I have been teaching hypnosis for childbirth to moms and partners for over 20 years, and I've used these techniques myself to birth my 3 babies. And I'm also a marriage and family therapist and hypnotherapist, and I've used techniques of hypnosis in my practice as a marriage and family therapist for 25 years. So when I got pregnant and started to face the big question of how am I going to get this baby out of my body, I started to do a lot of research. And that research led to what I want to pass on to you today. And for many years, for over a decade, I taught these classes in San Francisco for a decent fee, right? People would come and we'd meet in a location where we had lots of space to lay down and practice hypnosis. And as my kids got older, I liked being away less and less. When they were little, I really liked it. It was a nice break. But as they got older, I wanted to be with them. And so I recorded all of this material and put it online. And for many years, I sold it as an online childbirth class. And last night, as the wind was whipping through, I think it brought in fresh energy. And all of a sudden, I realized I can offer all of that for free. So I want to pass on all of this wisdom and knowledge, and I'm super excited to give it away. And I really hope it helps you as much as it helped me. So I know that these techniques that I am going to pass on to you have helped hundreds of students. And really, my expertise as a hypnotherapist helped me to refine these techniques. There are other programs that teach childbirth. There are lots of other programs that teach about childbirth. And the only reason to listen to this is if it feels right. So if there are things in other places that feel helpful to you, gather them. And I think everything that you need to know possibly will be presented in these videos. So that's my intention. And I'm going to start off giving you a little bit more information about me, and then we're going to go into the philosophy of what I have for years called birthing through hypnosis, because that's really how I think about it, is using hypnosis to help you in the birthing process. I'm going to talk about the big picture of childbirth and give you some nuts and bolts about that actually help give context to the techniques. And then we're going to talk about the techniques. Because to me, if you can't answer the question of what am I going to do when I'm in the midst of a contraction, then you do not have the tools that you need to enter labor with confidence that you are going to be able to navigate it on your own as Mother Nature intended. And so here we go. So my first baby was a huge blessing, right? I really wanted to be pregnant. I was super excited to be pregnant, and I was terrified. And the reason I was terrified is, well, I mean, look at our culture teaches us to be scared of childbirth. And my mother had added to that inadvertently, with only good intentions, I know, by telling me, I have a very vivid memory of being 8 years old, and she was telling me about the birds and the bees and how the baby gets in there in the first place, and then what it means basically, or what her experience was of childbirth. And she described it as being awful pain. At least that's what my 8-year-old brain recorded. And then there was a birth that was being shown on TV, right? At that time, we didn't have recordings. We couldn't just pull it up when we wanted. So we waited for the news to show this woman's childbirth experience. And what I saw on that television mirrored what my mother had told me. And I remember going into my room after that and closing the door and sobbing because I was so sad I was never going to have children. because there's no way in hell I was going to do what I had just seen on that TV and what my mother had described. So fast forward 25 years, I'm pregnant with my first baby and really excited and really scared about how I'm going to get this baby out of my body. And so I started asking my mom some more questions. I really just wanted to understand what had happened in her birth with me. I'm her oldest. And when she started describing more of the details, all of a sudden it started to make more sense what she had been through and why she described it the way she did. So in the 70s, my mom was told, don't worry, your male doctor, have this all handled. All you need to do is get to the hospital when you go into labor. So she had her very first contraction. My dad grabs the hospital bag and they run to the hospital. It's like the sitcoms. And when they arrived, my dad was sent to the waiting room and my mom was sent into a room and left alone. And every once in a while, a nurse would come in and check her and then leave again. And she was told to lie down. She was told to be quiet. And most of the time, she was completely alone with no techniques for managing what her body was experiencing. And so as she told me that, I started to realize, like, wait a second. Like, she was in the most uncomfortable position humanly possible when you're in labor. She had no support. She had no education to understand what was happening in her body, right? And she was told to be quiet, which is like an anti-technique. So there's so many things about this that started to make sense about why she had the experience that she had. Then you add to that she was given an epidural when she was 10 centimeters dilated. Like, she had already run the marathon, right? Practically. She was in the home stretch. She could see the finish line. Then she was given an epidural, which was terrifying to her because she's scared of needles. And then she pushed and pushed and pushed because she could no longer feel anything. She ended up having an episiotomy, and which means her birth canal was cut with scissors to get me out. And then as soon as I was born, I was taken away and I was taken to the nursery. So she, got to see her baby for a second and that's it. So trauma on trauma on trauma from my perspective, now thinking about what birth can be and realizing, as I realized when she told me all these details, that the decisions that we make while we're pregnant absolutely 100% impact our birth experience. And it can't, of course, the decisions we make cannot guarantee our birth experience. That's not at all what I'm saying, but we are guaranteed to have different experiences depending on some of those decisions that we make. So then I started asking questions of my husband. And I asked questions of him because I have 2 stepkids and they had dramatically different births. And he was very much a proponent, as a result of their dramatically different births, of natural birth. And I thought he was insane. Like, yeah, that's great for a guy to say, but I'm the one who's going to have to deal with that. And that seemed to me like unnecessary torture. At least that's what I thought at the time. And, but I really trust him. And so I started doing research, and that's what hopefully you're in the process of doing, right? Is research for what's going to help you in this journey. So in my research, I started learning just about the nuts and bolts of childbirth as Mother Nature intended it, right? What I will call for the rest of this time natural birth. And what I discovered is that our bodies are absolutely built to birth. And we'll talk about some of the details of that as we go, and the techniques will fit in with that. So I started to gain a little bit more confidence that this body knew how to do this thing. Like, magically it was growing a baby, and I wasn't telling it blow by blow, like, okay, today's the 10 fingers and today's the 10 toes. It was magically doing it by itself. So I knew my body had some inherent wisdom, and if I could trust that, maybe I could, make some plans for a natural birth. And then I started interviewing midwives. And at first, I interviewed the midwives that the people I trust most in my life had pushed me towards. Like, I kept hearing the same name over and over again. And she was lovely. And I, kind of intellectually decided I would work with her. And then one day I looked at my calendar and realized, oh, shoot, I forgot to cancel the meeting with these other midwives that I had found in the yellow pages. But it was too late. It would have been so disrespectful to call them 30 minutes before they were arriving to say, don't come. So they came. And when I met them, I just knew that they were the people that I wanted to be there at the home birth. I felt confidence in them. I felt confidence in my body and my baby. So that's why I chose home birth, is that it just felt like the right thing for me. So when I did have my first child, my best friend was there, and I'll tell the more extended story later, but she was there as he was born. She was there in the, kind of the afterglow of that experience. And shortly after he was born, she went into the kitchen and made me a big giant bowl of pasta and brought it to my bedside, where I was tucked into bed with my newborn who was nursing and my husband, and we had candles burning and music playing, and it was just like the most beautiful thing in the world. And she was pregnant at the time, and I remember thinking, oh, there's no way she's gonna go to the hospital anymore. She's gonna shift to a home birth. And I didn't say anything then, but a few weeks later I asked her about it, and she just looked at me like I had two heads. Like, are you kidding? Like, hell no. That was right for you. That is not right for me. And she told me why. And to me, what the reason I'm sharing this is that you're going to hear a lot about home birth in this series. You're also going to hear a lot about a hospital birth and all the choices that we have as pregnant mamas. But I want to be really clear. I am not pushing home birth on anyone. I really think that following your intuition and figuring out what's right for you is part of this journey. And so following your intuition about where you're going to give birth, following your intuition about who your caregivers are, who are you entrusting with this journey, and to be the hands that will care for you if needed. And then also your intuition about what techniques are going to be most helpful for you in childbirth. So I really want to honor that path. I'll talk about lots of different options, and just know that the reason I chose home birth is just because my whole being told me that that was what was right for me. I felt tense and nervous in a hospital. I did not feel that in my house. So that was a part of this. And I just honor the path that each woman, each couple takes as you make the, so many decisions in this journey. So let's begin.